All right, looks like we're good to get started. Welcome, guys. Welcome to the Luxembourg Mind Panel discussion series. You might have come across our podcast or the previous panel discussions. What we're trying to do here is bring together some of the best speakers in Luxembourg and pair them with some of the brightest minds in Luxembourg. On that note, speaking of the brightest minds, I'd like to welcome the alumni of INSEAD, Oxford, Cambridge, Imperial, LSE, HEC Paris, Sciences Po, Harvard, and the societies of CAIA and CFA. Over the last year, we've heard so much about AI, digitization, how it's going to impact our lives in the future. What I've been particularly interested in is trying to figure out how this is going to impact our lives right here in Luxembourg and what we can do to prepare for it, what we can do to avail of it and be in the best possible position to benefit in the months, years to come. While we've managed to get the top-tier talent in Luxembourg in the room, we've also got a panel of really eminent speakers, decision makers who are in some way, shape, or form likely going to influence the trajectory of our AI and digitalization paths forward. So we have Astrid, representing the legal side from Arendt and Medernach. We have Emanuele from HSBC, representing the banking side of things. We have Sasha from Luxinnovation, representing government. And we have Patrick, of course, from Deloitte, our host for the evening. What we're going to do in the discussion today is we're going to follow a bit of a funnel approach where we start broad, we look at macro trends, and then we move slightly narrower into the impact of those trends in Luxembourg on our industries, and then we move even narrower into the individual basis. What can we do to avail of those trends? What can we do to position ourselves there? One last thing before we start, we'll do the panel discussion for the first 40 minutes or so, then we open it up to you guys for Q&A. And I've told our panelists, I've asked them to brace. I told them this is a very intellectual audience. There's going to be a lot of tough questions. So the panel is ready as can be, I hope. And with that, once we do Q&A, we head to the bar and continue the conversation there. Does that sound okay? Super. All right, let's get started then. Cool. You guys all set? All right, good. Okay, cool. Let's dive right into it. Can I direct my first question to you, Sasha? So with the rise of AI and automation, there are going to be new opportunities out there. Is there something that you anticipate for businesses, entrepreneurs in Luxembourg?
Yes, well, it's obviously something that we, as innovation agency in Luxembourg, have looked in closely. And I think it's very important to then take the perspective first of all, what is AI? Well, it's a technology that really allows you actually to routine, any routine tasks can be more automated. It's about getting the access to data, analyzing data. It's all about being able to predict trends. This is really important, and it allows you basically also anything that is automatable to actually use it for. That is really important. So we've looked at in what way are the different sectors of the economy of this going to be impacted, and what we also see, it's not really necessarily just sectors, but it's more specifically business functions inside companies, inside organizations. So what we really see is from the sector side, anything to do with healthcare, really huge. Anything, diagnosis of illnesses in medicine area, treatment, monitoring the patients. One really key area, another one obviously financial sector, and I'm sure most of you here in the room are probably from the financial sector. We have Emanuele from the financial, you will see that much more, but detecting fraud, also automatizing certain tasks in the financial area too, obviously very pertinent to transport, lots of opportunities there. The supply chains, logistics, anything in that area will definitely be impacted. Another area very important is industry, manufacturing.
Sure.
Optimization of processes there, predictive maintenance. So we're supporting a lot of our industry in that area there because it's going to allow to reduce downtime when there are breakages in the systems break down. So all these areas there, legal obviously, automation around anything, the audit data that you can see, and I'm sure Astrid covers that much more. So I think the legal profession will be profoundly impacted, obviously. Then business functions, anything to do with actually customer marketing and that, capturing the emotions, the needs of clients through any indicators there. AI is going to be very impactful there. So a lot of those kind of areas. But there's really one key point, is that we see the technology and what it can do around the optimization of all these tasks and so on. But at the same time, we also see that that is not going to actually be so quickly doable unless the AI is based on clean data. And that is really an absolutely key factor, because we imagine everything it can do, but we're presuming that the data's there and you just have to get access to it. But clean data means data that is not duplicated, that is complete, that is interoperable, accessible in that manner there. And that is where there is still a hurdle to actually get AI to really be applied to any of these sectors. And it's also an area where the Luxembourg government is really consciously investing in, on building the capacity to get access to clean data. That's really a key point. So anyway, I've gone on a bit too long.
Great. So transformational impact potential across the board, but a data hurdle to cross. Okay, great. Emanuele, can I come to you to add on to that? Anything that you're seeing from an impact standpoint on businesses, entrepreneurship in Luxembourg?
Yeah, I mean, Sasha covered already some of the items very well, and also a little disclaimer, you introduced us as expert, I'm sure my colleagues are. I mean, tonight I will talk more from a bank CEO perspective, and someone who's really learning about AI, the way it's impacting our day-to-day work, and how I can leverage to optimize what I do. Because if you think of it from a bank financial service perspective, we're really looking at AI to save time, improve efficiencies, of course reduce costs, but at the same time the ultimate goal is really to make our job easier and provide a better service to the client. So if you look at the areas where is highly utilized is for manually intensive tasks, non-core tasks from a financial institution perspective, or other areas where there are several data points, and Sasha mentioned fraud prevention, cybersecurity are two areas where we have deployed a very large amount of AI, because what machine learning can do in terms of repetition of certain fraud types or cybersecurity attack, we found artificial intelligence is more effective than some of the controls that we had before. We've also deployed it in areas like content production, customer service. But really, if you think about it, it's really, as I mentioned before, any manual intensive process. If you think a little bit, I know that Luxembourg, for example, is a very large fund center, and there is always a lot of manual intervention, particularly if you think about the reconciliation process. I mean, everyone talks about artificial intelligence, but for people that started working in banking 30 years ago, we always looked to automate our processes. Now we have tools that can do it much better. If you think about something simple as reconciliation, which in the past it took maybe 100 people to do that, now you have an application that not only reconciles the items, but always also produces intelligent report that you can use to improve the processes, to provide feedback to the clients. So those are the areas where we really can leverage, and AI can help us rather than impacting the way we operate. So but to summarize, is really anything that is a high touch point from a manual perspective, and AI can really help us and support us.
Okay. One of the themes that I picked up from what you said was this incredible focus on customers and clients. Patrick, you guys at Deloitte work with a lot of clients. You have a very unique vantage point across industries. Can I ask you to share with us, what you're seeing, expectations from clients, and how you guys are meeting that?
Yeah, it depends on what you is it okay? Yeah. It depends on what you call customer or client. I mean, we know that AI is not new. It was accepted in, I believe, 56. So a long time ago. It has hypes, time and winters, but we see, a large investment lately, and that's linked to the advent of the new transformers type of technology supporting, as you know, the generative AI wave we have seen. But then when you come back to the classical AI and completely concur to what Sasha said, it has to be based on clean data. And in Luxembourg, we have had some interesting cases, especially on financial services in terms of reconciliations or fraud management, as you said. But as when you touch customer, we know that a large part of what we live as users, customers of platforms, which are not basically developed in Luxembourg for most of them, are driven by AI. Hyper-personalization, the way we're gonna receive services, or we receive today's services and propositions, is basically based on data we accept to leave for those platforms to define profiles for ourselves. So, I mean, for customers, AI is not new. It's a way to improve the servicing, to improve the sales, to improve the way we do serve those clients. In Luxembourg, does it impact us that much? Not that much, because we don't have a large market, we don't have a large client base to serve, except for some players, and yours possibly, Fresh. But what is important in Luxembourg, I believe, is to see that from a B2B perspective for clients who are part of the value chain we do have in Luxembourg, mostly in the fund industry, banking industry, and everything which is coming now with the alternative investment industry. For the last 10 years, there is clearly a trend which has to be considered. And in that respect, what we see is that the latest technology, especially generative AI, are extremely impactful for whatever we do. I mean, we are in Luxembourg mostly active in operations and middle office functions, compliance, which is still heavily manual and based on documents. So the fact that those technology, even if AI completely concur, has to process clear and has to be based on clear data. When you have documents, unstructured data, you can achieve a lot of transformation out of the technology which is available off the shelf today. We have run analysis for ourselves, for instance, but as well for the banking industries. We have defined 400 to 500 use cases which can be applied to many domains everywhere, from HR to finance to operations. We do believe that, for instance, for Deloitte, 65% of what we do in audit, tax, and consulting and advisory services will be touched by generative AI, which will lead to a major impact in terms of revenues over time, mostly on operations which have been outsourced in the past to near and offshore centers. Basically the same, I believe, for the financial industry. But not considering those impacts nowadays is a major threat for the competitiveness of the place. We do believe that operational efficiency on one hand, but as well compliance enforcement on the other hand, will be highly touched by generative AI. And that's something where any client, I believe in the room or wherever it is, has to be cognizant of the fact that this is a major impact and has to be tackled anytime soon.
Okay, great. That was very to the point. Thank you, Patrick. Patrick is the head of everything to do with generative AI for Deloitte, and it shows very concise and precise there. Thank you, Patrick. Astrid, can I come to you to add on from a legal standpoint? Are you seeing the manifestation of any expectations from your clients when you're dealing with them?
Mm-hmm. Yes, of course. You said, Sasha, and that is correct. The legal profession is highly impacted by AI. Our clients are expecting us to use tools first in the first stage, automation tools, but also slowly but surely AI tools. I think that generally, and that's not only for our clients, I think that really the rise of AI and the use of AI tools is really setting new standards for business to meet. So it really impacts all businesses, and if you don't jump on that train, then you will completely lose competitiveness, and it's just not a choice you have. You were mentioning also the clean data. I wanted to come back to that because we have many clients who are, so obviously it's a question of analyzing a lot of data and who are crawling. Some of them are just crawling the web, taking data which is publicly available, as they think, but they are actually not really checking the terms and conditions of the website where they take the data from. And so obviously that will one day become a huge issue. If you have a new investor coming in, doing a due diligence on that, that is clearly for me a red flag. We have seen the case with the New York Times having sued OpenAI and Microsoft for using their articles to feed their database. So I think that is really a very important point. But to come back to your initial question, the expectations are you need to be quicker. You need to use AI to give personalized recommendations. To also transparency is an expectation from our clients, so they exactly want to know which tools we use. Now also based on on the Digital Services Act, the AI Act, and obviously GDPR, transparency becomes more and more important. So consumers, but also business, they just want to understand how their data is being processed and what are exactly the systems which are being used.
It's a demanding set of clients. It's a demanding set of clients.
Exactly.
Cool. Sasha, can I come back to you? I'm trying to narrow the focus of the conversation now to Luxembourg and try to figure out, we spoke about different trends now. How are these going to be impacting Luxembourg, Luxembourg's economy, Luxembourg's business? Are there any specific manifestations of these trends?
Yeah, so well, again, it's the same really areas that I mentioned before that we see are being impacted, and I'd actually also mention those where we see precisely from a Luxembourg angle that are most pertinent. But there's one aspect that is really key, is that we have a big advantage here in Luxembourg from also the fact that we have invested a lot over many years in research and data infrastructure, and that is absolutely key. And we see now that investment over many years is bearing its fruit. And when I say research, I mean all the data scientists that are here in Luxembourg. I don't know how many of us are really aware of how many really great brains, and I think your word here, the Luxembourg Mind, is very, very well chosen. How many great brains around data are actually in Luxembourg? Take the multidisciplinary centre of the university, Security, Reliability and Trust. It's called the SNT.
Yeah.
They have a staff of 500 people. Mostly of those are specialists in data. And they work with industry. They also work a lot with the banking sector, with space tech, and many areas. Recently they have agreed a collaboration with the BNP Paribas. They are developing a solution around AI. I think it's some sort of kind of policing of AI, something, but that's done in collaboration. And though that is now happening, and what we also see is that we have a lot of companies actually that we are reaching out to internationally to come to Luxembourg. And what is our value proposition? It's very much around also the research capacities that are here. So that's really key. The data infrastructure, high performance computing, that we have one of the biggest high performance computers of Europe here in Luxembourg, with a specialized design that is accessible for business to use, is absolutely key. We have recently created what we call the Luxembourg National Data Service, which is actually a service for those who need access to data, all types of data, to develop applications, to then be solution providers, to use them as an interface to get this access to clean data. So what I'm saying here is that a lot has already been done to actually build up that data ecosystem, and now we are seeing it being more and more used, and I'm absolutely confident that that is going to be more and more the case.
Okay.
And I haven't even mentioned the fact that we are a European country. I mean, everybody knows it, but being so close to the whole European process, with immediate access between businesses, research, policymakers, directly connected what's happening to the European Commission, in the European Commission in Europe, is absolutely key too. Those very close touch points are also a big advantage that we have.
Okay, great. So the theme that I'm seeing here is that we mentioned a couple of times AI, this is not new, but we seem to have invested a lot in Luxembourg, and I think because of that foresight, we are very well placed right now, and I guess we're well placed to reap the benefits of that foresight.
Yes.
That's great. Patrick, can I come to you as well? Like, do you have any predictions on changes that will manifest in Luxembourg's economy and business landscape as a consequence of all these trends?
Yeah, first I want to say that again, sorry about repeating myself, I'm sure on what you said. I mean, I believe we have the right minds. I mean, we have the right minds, right brains, the infrastructure in place. I mean, Mary mentioned is clearly there for training new models. We could, and private LLMs, private large language models could be an asset we developed in Luxembourg. We have everything we need around. The impact on Luxembourg, which was a question. I have a bias, which is more financial services. But in Luxembourg, we know that the cost of labor is extremely high. So every operations running in Luxembourg is quite lean. For obvious reasons, we can't hire people, we can't find people, and there is many issues around real estate or whatever, so I won't comment on that. So the fact that Gen AI and AI will be impactful on the industry is obvious. I mean, analysts or people like Goldman Sachs have predicted $7 trillion of TIB or GDP, additional GDP to be created. So the impact globally will be huge. In Luxembourg, as we have already optimized the operating model to the extreme, I believe we have to tackle Gen AI and AI to optimize the way we do deliver the services cost-wise, meaning that it's probably not an impact on the labor per se, as we're going to see in many countries, but we need to act now to leverage the capacity you mentioned to actually create the new services and a new way of delivering the services in the future, which is crucial. If we don't move fast enough, other places will, and that's probably a call for action. We have everything around. It's a question of limited number of key people and experts to be put together to create additional value. Everyone knows, or at least you probably have read, that we have one or two key startups in Europe which are visible in the Gen AI realm. Mistral is one of them in France. Mistral is nothing in terms of number of people, it's 40 people. They have raised 400 million or close to a few months ago. We can do that as well in Luxembourg, and we have some example of good startups which are starting to pop up. We will probably talk about that during questions later on. So I'm confident that if we find a way to align those energies together, we can do something great, and we can optimize the way we deliver services to our clients, because Luxembourg per se is part of a larger value chain which has a role, and this role can be optimized to stay as competitive as we are in this landscape.
Okay, so as a nation we've been running, but we have to keep running, ensure that we keep up our pole position. Okay, cool. Emanuele, can I come to you? Is there anything specific that HSBC has been doing to ride this wave of innovation?
Yeah, if you talk about innovation linked to AI, but general innovation, there is a lot that we've been doing in the market here in Luxembourg and clearly globally. And for those of you that might not know, HSBC is clearly a large organization, quite old, over 115 years and 50 years, and it was one of the largest and the oldest founder of the global trade. So sometimes we used to be quite slow in terms of moving and getting onto new trends, but I have to say over the past 2-3 years, we moved quite quickly across several areas. Specifically to Luxembourg, some of you might have heard the tokenized platform that we launched last year. That was for bonds. Last night we had a client event when our global head of FX and commodities talked about the same platform now used also for gold. Given the current situation, gold is raising its value and trying to tokenize the commodity. So in terms of innovation, we are absolutely doing a lot. Luxembourg is at the forefront. Again, for some of you that might not know, we acquired last year on the back of the collapse of the Silicon Valley Bank, the UK franchise, and we turned that in what we refer to as HSBC Innovation Bank. We have a delegation here in Luxembourg, Sasha kindly met as well, where we looked at opportunities in the market. How can we help them? And most of the clients in this space are really companies, fintech, that operate in AI, or how can they funds, or how can they complement and help banks to develop. So we are doing a lot. In terms of internally, I said it already before, I used the example of reconciliation, but there's over 6,000 applications that we have deployed globally in every single manual process that we do. From before I talked about reconciliation, we could talk about transaction monitoring, where we look for either sanction clients where there are certain trends, and AI is helping. Clearly there are different controls and tools, but AI has also been deployed in the area. So if you think of every single manual process within a global bank, we now have a component of AI that is helping us to optimize, save time, and allow the people that are working in those processes to focus on more core activities. So that's something that we have almost turned the corner, and now HSBC is a lot more active on this front compared to the past.
Okay, that sounds like a lot of work's been done already. So you guys are very well positioned, and I understand now why HSBC has managed to stay around for 150 years.
Yes.
Cool. Astrid, can I come to you as well? I've seen a lot of your recent LinkedIn posts talking about digitization and the work that's happening at Arendt. So I'd love to learn a little bit from you as to what you've been doing, what Arendt's been doing to position itself here.
Yes, sure. So we started a few years ago with just the first legal tech tool which we used, which is the name is Contract Express. So it's a document automation tool, which can generate many documents just from based on a simple questionnaire. What was interesting there was that at the very beginning, associates were very reluctant to use it. And why that? I think it was because it obviously takes much less time to create all the documents which they had to create. It was mainly used in the corporate M&A practice, and they were just afraid that they could not fill their timesheets if they used that tool. And so we had to think about how we could reflect that, give them the possibility to encourage them to use that tool. And it's a question of change management, which is not always easy. And well, now they are happy to use it, but we had to find a solution that they nonetheless have an incentive to do it based on their timesheets. Another one we use is Luminance. It's actually a tool which allows to analyze a huge amount of documents. So it's very useful for M&A due diligence instances, or to analyze contracts in view of a change of a service provider, for example. So that can, our clients are really expecting that. That has now become really a standard. So we are certainly not the only ones using this type of tools. And then we invested in a French legal tech which is called Predictis, and as the name announces it, it's a huge database with all the case law, French case law in it, and it allows to predict the outcome of a legal action depending on which legal basis you use. But it's also very precise. It can also tell you if you go in front of that chamber of this Paris court with that president or chair of the court, you have a chance to get, I don't know, between 1 and 2 million, while if you go to the other chamber of that same court, your damages which you will get will be much lower or much higher, it depends. So it goes very far. And in Luxembourg, we have the kind of issue that it's not all the case law in an exhaustive way is accessible to feed the database. And so I personally find that acceptable to use this kind of tools if if all the court decisions are in there, because like a law firm like others, like ours, where we have a huge litigation department and a lot of cases are being created through our teams, if we do a selection of the court decisions which are just in favor of our positions, then obviously it's a bit kind of problematic in my view. Now with respect to generative AI, you know that we have very strict professional secrecy, even stricter than the one of the banker, so actually almost no exceptions being foreseen in our law. So we are analyzing very carefully if we could get access to someone to our data. So we are analyzing that in a very careful way. Now we try to foster a culture of innovation and empower employees by creating working groups, working on just identifying needs, working on potential use cases, so that we involve them, that they are later on really enthusiastic to use these new tools. And then obviously client feedback is very important for us. Nonetheless, I have to say that things like multi-factor authentication is already a problem for a lot of clients. That is not quickly enough. But the problem is we also need to make sure that the data is adequately protected. You cannot have it all. And we see a lot of clients who are already identifying themselves to just have a qualified electronic signature on a document is already a problem. Now, my question is, how do you want to, if digitalization is already an issue because of this electronic signature thing, then how do they want to really now dive into the world of AI? So, I mean, it's a question of change management.
Okay, great. Like, I was just listening to you here talking about your tools. Like, it just sounds like a lot of progress has already been made, and I think that adds on to Sasha's point about how the legal industry has so much potential for transformation there because of the trends. Patrick, can I come to you for a question on culture? Like, what can we do in Luxembourg to foster this culture of innovation and entrepreneurship amidst this sea of change?
I mean, from an infrastructure perspective, as we said before, I believe we have a lot of assets to tap into on Luxinnovation for startups and I've seen some people from Alban over there for people who would like to test their entrepreneurship skills and raise some money. But there's also infrastructure, physical infrastructure for running models and so on. So it's not that there the issue is not on the infrastructure and supporting functions we have enough. It's probably on, our culture to be sometimes fast followers. We should sometimes test things and not waiting for them to be completely cooked. In this respect, and especially regarding GenAI, the technology, I'm a tech partner my education and experience, it's not a complex technology. It's very complex, but it's easy to use. It's off the shelf, it's free. There are open source platforms you can use. Everyone at home can test the technology if you want, and you can all access tools and platforms for testing them. So there is no reasons for refraining from testing at least. And I know that from a legal perspective, plenty. That was my other perspective. Legal compliance, privacy, ethical issues you have to deal with. But you don't have to deploy in the first place. You can start testing. And even for those issues, and that's probably where we are stumbling most of the times when we want to deploy fast. It's not on the technology, it's on the surrounding environment. You have to start working on those things to be effective. And if I take, the example of Deloitte per se, we have put in that concept a clearinghouse in place with all the competencies around the table. It's not a subject you can deal with only lawyers or only tech people. You need a broad set of expertise around the table to clear those situations. We have cleared some platforms. We have developed our own platforms for testing those concepts, and that's something I would propose to anyone to start with. The generally secure type of GPT, not a chat GPT in the cloud, but something you can use safely. We have deployed it, and we have on a daily basis more than 2,000 users here in Luxembourg using the platform, so it's working very well without too much of efforts to run the change management. Of course, you have to run awareness sessions, you have to run some trainings on prompt engineering. It's not something coming out of the blue without support, but it runs very well. And over time, you start finding the issues you have with the technology. We know that it's not perfect, it's math. So you have hallucinations, you have plenty of drawbacks and concerns and risks you have to deal with. But my main message would be, if Luxembourg wants to thrive in that respect, it's probably time to start.
Okay, so move fast and don't be afraid to fail.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Sasha, can I come to you on that? I know that you've been trying to foster this culture of innovation in Luxembourg, this mindset through Luxinnovation. Can I ask you to add on to what Patrick said?
First of all, I want to say Patrick's 100% right.
Yeah.
That is something that Luxembourg has always been very good, and you use the word fast follower, but that's no longer enough. You need to get into a creative mindset. You've got to go out there, test things, be ready to risk. Agile methodologies, I think, is absolutely key. There was a conference last Friday in Luxembourg about this, organised by this organisation called Agile Tour. Fantastic. That's what we need more of. You mentioned change management. It's a lot of that. It's not enough that we have the infrastructure and the programs, and I can talk to you about all these programs that we've set up to support companies, the Fit for Start, the Fit for Digital, the Fit for Innovation. We make joint calls, calling upon companies to actually develop solutions, and there's public funding there. It's coming nationally. We connect to European programs, to the European consortia. Everything there is in place. But if that mindset is not there to actually go out there, risk things, regulatory sandboxes, this is the stuff that we now really need to be doing, and fast. So I fully agree with you. We've got a lot, of mechanisms and infrastructure and programs and funding there, and that's fantastic and it's appreciated. But I really think all of us need to encourage everyone we're together with to actually be a bit more daring.
Okay, just to go a bit deeper on that, from an individual basis, yes, people should try to go out there, get skills. Are there any specific skills that you'd try to say, looking into the future, these skills are going to be prominent, and this is what you should be focusing on?
Yeah, on the skill set, absolutely. Skills, obviously, there are the hard skills, the technology, the data scientist stuff where we need to we know that, all that is the skills of the future. but there are the soft skills. It's that creative thinking. It's getting out of your comfort zone, doing things that you don't automatically do. We must not be artificial intelligence, because artificial intelligence is going to occupy the space of anything that is done in a routine manner. So we have to make even more effort to step into that zone that is, the creative zone. And we need to teach our children to do that, give them the confidence to do it. At work, change management, step back, accept that errors are made. And I myself have problems with that, being a perfectionist, actually letting the teams come up with proposals, and it's not maybe exactly how I would have imagined, but that's great. Other things come up, and that's where we need to get into. So I think that's really important as skills.
Okay, great. Astrid, can I come to you for the same question? What skills can our audience focus on? And how can they go about acquiring and developing those?
Yes, I of course fully agree with Sasha. So we need those technical skills, so programmers, data analysts, and so on. But from the technical expertise, we also just need to be experts in what we do. We cannot solely rely on generative AI. So I give you the example of our young associates. So if, as from the beginning, they will just have Gen AI tools which will generate legal advice, legal memos or documents, they just need to have also the basic knowledge, because how you mentioned, Patrick, you mentioned hallucination, so you must be able to identify also those errors. And for me, that will really become a challenge in the future. So how we will handle that, I actually don't know. And then obviously we have, the soft skills, so that is what we humans, we are just super strong at, and I think that those soft skills will be more and more important now in the current environment. So so the technical skills, we can get them through education, and then about soft skills, there are also trainings, but mentorship is, I think, a very important part, just to build up our talents, and that will be very important as well.
Okay, so pick up technical skills, pick up soft skills, use a mentor where required. Okay, great. Thank you, Astrid. Emanuele, can I come to you with the flip side of things? Along with the progress we've made, there have also been some fears, job displacement, societal impacts. How can individuals balance these potential benefits against these fears?
I mean, you get asked that question quite often whenever there is a new trend, and this is my personal view. It's not the HSBC CEO speaking, but I think if you put it in practical terms, if I still operated and worked as I did 28 years ago, when I started, I wouldn't be here, with all honesty. If I was a taxi driver having a carriage with a horse, Findel Airport today and picking up people, I don't think I will last that long. So my point is, innovation has been there throughout our life. The evolution has been there. At the moment, clearly AI is quite aggressive, is moving quite fast. And my advice is really to embrace it and try to understand how people can be retrained, how can they learn different skills to be still part of this evolution. Because I gave some example before of what we do in the banking sector. Simple things like reconciliation, transaction monitoring. I mean, you still need people that need to write programs on how to develop an AI. You need to understand what is the client behavior. So you just need to understand that you need to retrain and still be very useful within the organization, work with a fintech. But the point is that we can't stay still. If we stay still and we accept the status quo, then of course there will be roles that are going to be a risk. But my view is that if you've got a willingness to embrace the new technology, trying to understand it and really understand what value you can bring if you start learning new skill and recycle yourself in another role, I think actually AI can bring a lot of opportunities and do something more interesting and more relevant. Because again, I guess we live only once, and you probably want to try different things during the course of your life. It's important that and to me, this is an opportunity. and I know that a lot of people see this as a risk for certain jobs. Of course, there will be jobs that will disappear on the back of this, but there will be a lot of other jobs that will be created. The key is to be open-minded, trying to understand what these jobs are going to be, and ensure that you kind of train and get the necessary skills to be competent and get new roles. So I don't think they are, sometimes we dramatize a bit too much the potential impact and we don't look at the opportunities. And the way I sell it, particularly to my teams, is this is an opportunity. There are other things that we can do more interesting, and that's my view.
Okay, so be curious, learn, and convert this into an opportunity.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I guess from the audience perspective, you guys are here, so you guys already have a leg up. Patrick, can I come to you? Like, Deloitte is one of the largest employers in Luxembourg, and how would you go about allaying some of these fears that you hear from your employees and from that audience perspective as well?
Yeah, there are some people who can be scared. I mean, like usual, when there is something challenging, there is always some fears. Innovation is all about that, somehow, for the last 50 years or more. It depends on what you discuss as here. I mean, if we discuss the current play or if we really project ourselves in the future, I mean, just as a joke, where that, I mean, when Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, was asked, how are we going to leverage those investments, I mean, the billions we're putting into this company, he said, I don't know, because I will wait AGI, artificial general intelligence, to come in and it will answer by itself. So we're not there yet. So we're not there yet, but still, I mean, we see the level of impact we can expect on what we are talking about, especially the latest waves of innovation. I strongly believe, again, to already mentioned that we will see more augmented humans, especially in Luxembourg, and not replacement of humans in Luxembourg. Now, at the same time, what we see, and that's what we project, one of the largest business, for instance, we have at Deloitte globally is SAP implementations, probably a 6 billion business. I mean, we do expect a 2 billion drop in revenues on that business somehow. Why? Because I mean, everything which is about development and ABAP configuration, the ABAP development configuration will be replaced by automation. I mean, SAP is working on generative AI-enabled platform, just to take an example. But the same will apply a bit everywhere. So I'm a bit more concerned by the centers who have received a lot of low-hand activities in the past. That will be impact for them. Impact in Luxembourg, I mean, considering that we probably have, and can confirm, one of the countries where the quality of, let's say, the education of the people we have is the highest in Europe, probably one of the highest. I believe we have the best chance as well to capture the value out of AI as opposed to the impact out of AI. But it's again a question of moving fast. So sorry to repeat myself.
No, great. It's good to know that Luxembourg has top talent and we are generally quite safe and secure. I think Darren will attest to that as well. Cool. Sasha, can I come to you? It's our rapid fire round. We're doing fun questions now. Sasha, can I ask you, if you could have coffee with one person leading the global drive for innovation, who would it be?
You didn't say whether it had to be somebody who's still alive or not. So the person who comes to mind to me is Simone Weil. Now maybe she's not somebody you immediately think of as innovation and technology, it's not that. She was a Holocaust survivor. She really led the fight in France to legalize abortion, which I think is absolutely crucial. Even in today's sense, you cannot imagine that it could be questioned again. She was the first female president of the European Parliament. So she was one of those persons, one of those women who really did not fear going beyond boundaries, breaking boundaries, groundbreaking. In an environment, especially at the time for women in that world, she was exceptional, it was unusual, but she went in that. And I think that for innovation is absolutely key, and it's that kind of mindset with very, very strong, important human values. So in times where democracy is being compromised, where we have war again in Europe, where populism is rising, I think it's so important to remember those values and remember the leaders we've had that have, led Europe where we are today. So that's key.
Oh, that's really inspiring. Thank you for sharing that. Emanuele, can I come to you? What's the weirdest or most unexpected job that you think could be replaced by AI in the future?
Most unexpected, a CEO. And, to be honest, I don't know. I don't think there's going to be, I mean, it's actually quite predictable. I think the jobs that are going to be replaced by AI, I think we touched in the discussion. But I think maybe to go one step forward is every other job will be complemented by AI, including the CEO. Every CEO will have to learn how to use, how to leverage, how we can optimize our time and the way we work by understanding and using AI in certain part of our jobs that we're not at the moment. So I think AI will touch every role. Will it replace all of them? Absolutely no. I'm thinking of roles in the medical sector where not only you require a certain skill, but also a certain level of empathy. Nurses and others, psychiatrists, psychologists. I mean, there are certain roles where the human being is going to be still absolutely essential. But for other roles in the financial sector where we're not as essential as the doctors, I think we definitely need to leverage and use more AI, but I can't see any unexpected role being completely replaced, to be honest.
Yeah, I think that ties back to the soft skills that Sasha and Astrid were talking about, the human side that is irreplaceable. Cool. Patrick, can I come to you? What's the most bizarre prediction you've heard about the future of AI?
Plenty of predictions. You find documents all over the place on predictions. There is one thing which is probably not a prediction, which is something which is in the making, but honestly, I'm so scary that I hope it will fail. There is one of the most visible entrepreneurs called Elon Musk. You know, he's been successful in building space industry or reinventing the space industry, inventing Tesla and so on, but as well Neuralink. And you might have heard about Neuralink. The prospect of this firm is to build some sort of connected AI which would enhance your cognitive abilities, support, you in information gathering or decision making. Actually, it's quite scary if you think about that. It's even more than science fiction. So that's probably something very bizarre, which is in the making, but I hope will fail.
Thank you, Patrick. Astrid, can I ask you if you could have an AI assistant help you with a daily task, an everyday task, regardless of feasibility in today's world, what would it be?
So luckily, neither myself nor anyone who is close to me has serious health issues, because then my answer might be another. But just in my daily life, I struggle with this huge number of emails, and when I come out of meetings during which last for hours, then it would be great to have a virtual personal assistant who would just simply summarize to me the most important points of the emails which are in my inbox, who would tell me which ones are directly addressed to me and where I need to do something, and already prepare a first answer to those emails, which I just need to review and to send out of my inbox. That would be great, and it's actually not at all, that would already be feasible today, so that is not at all very fancy idea which I have, but it's just not yet implemented in my company.
We have a startup idea right here. Great. Which brings us to our final question for the evening. It's the advice segment, which I'll be asking each of our panelists. Astrid, can I start with you? What piece of advice would you give our audience members here as they navigate this rapidly evolving landscape of digitalization and AI, both in Luxembourg or abroad?
So my advice, and I'm the boring lawyer here in this panel, is obviously coming from the legal perspective. So I would advise to companies to be very careful in the collection of data which they will use as training data for AI tools, so to verify the availability, to take data protection into account. Also, third-party IP rights, very important. I mentioned the New York Times and OpenAI case. Professional secrecy, depending in which sector you are active, and I mean 3 of 4 of us have to struggle with professional secrecy. Cybersecurity is also a very important element, which was maybe not mentioned enough during this session, because also, Sasha, you mentioned the whole ecosystem in Luxembourg, and I think that we also have a very strong cybersecurity ecosystem in Luxembourg, which is also a strength, together with the data centers, medicine and so on. So cybersecurity is also an important element. And then to prepare slowly but surely to the application of the AI Act, so to start also with small things like acceptable use policies for AI to be implemented in companies, and to look into the implementation of the AI Act. That would be my advice.
Thank you. You mentioned curiosity before. I think be curious would be my first one. And if you ask yourself why kids learn so quickly, they're constantly asking questions, they want to explore things, and then at a stage of our life we start becoming a bit more complacent. I think this year as well, other responsibility, but I think never lose that curiosity, because I think that's what really pushes us to learn and progress. I mentioned before about challenging yourself, don't accept the status quo, and really embrace and be open to different way of working and operating.
Well, two things perhaps. The first one that was mentioned many times: dare and try. And I like the saying of Steve Jobs when he was at Stanford years ago: "Stay foolish, stay hungry, and move and move that way." And we have some players in Luxembourg startups. You might have seen the steps of one of my partner who has created Helical, this ChatGPT for pharma. It was in the press like some days ago. That's good to see some good examples of startups flourishing in Luxembourg, or at least they will try to flourish and thrive. Hopefully, yes. The second thing is, just to elaborate on what you said, I believe that in the future, the ones who will be the king in this world are the ones who can bridge technology and legal elements. IP rights, privacy, all those elements combined with technology are very complex. We have very few people who can master those things and can discuss do things in complex environments we're dealing with. So the ones who can master the two, or making the bridge between the two domains, will be the king. And that's an advice I would give to anyone, and we hire.
Well, let's have a round of applause for our panelists. A couple of very quick shout-outs before we close. Big thank you to Lakshmi and Frank for volunteering today, for helping us out today. Also, thank you very much to the Deloitte team, Christina, Federica, Kathy, and Gilles, for helping us put all of this together. Great organization. Thank you very much, guys. Outside of all of that, to keep abreast of the future panel discussions we do in our podcast, you know where to go. We have our LinkedIn page. Follow us there. And that apart, let's continue the conversation at the bar. Thank you, guys.